Okay, this is Planetary Encodements, February 20th, 2023, and here we are. And I have to say that, like the world around me, I'm in a total change. We're doing planetary encodements, but all the years that I've been doing them in this lifetime, all the times that I've been studying astrology, I've studied Western astrology. And I know there's different forms of astrology. And most recently, there are people in our group, which is the Healing Acceleration Lab. We have been finding out what our Starseed origins are. Now, there are several ways to do this, and I'm just bringing this up because I'm going to show you that I guess I'm bringing this up because I'm in a transition of how I read my charts astrologically, and I'll go in and explain that. But in Western astrology, it's pretty set. You're like, if you were born March 21st to April 20th, 21st, you're in Aries. Okay, and it goes on, then you're then Taurus, and it's all set and everything like that. But in Vedic astrology, they read their charts. It's not set. It's not like it's always been set. And I might not be explaining this really properly and everything like that but there's a 23-degree difference in the chart. So therefore, if you were born in early Aries, actually, if you have your chart done Vedically, you're actually a Pisces. If you were born and you're an early Taurian, then you are actually an Aries. It shifts it back. And people, especially in the West, are attached to their sun sign. I mean, because that's what they've read in the papers. That's how most of the information they have gotten has to do with Western astrology. Now, doing this research on Vedic astrology, and I've known about it for quite some number of years. And oftentimes when I'll do your personal astrological reading, I'll look at the Vedic chart. And I've often thought that the Vedic chart is the chart of your soul. It's the chart of your divine purpose for being here. Although Vedic astrologers can be very mundane in the way they read your chart. But the way I would read a Vedic chart would be kind of like our divine purpose for being here. So there's a reason I'm telling you all this. So I'm in transition of when I look at Western astrology now, and because I've been strongly introduced to Vedic astrology, I am in a process of transition because I'm finding out the Vedic astrology is more true for me right now. And but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to integrate both of those chart readings. So I know that I'm going on about chart readings, but what we're talking about tonight is all going to be based on Vedic astrology. It's not going to be based in our traditional Western way. So it's an experiment. I'm exploring my truth, and they always say that the truth is true until it's not. And I'm finding out that what I'm going to disclose to you tonight is the truth that I see it in this minute. So that said, before I get into anything, does anybody have anything to say about what I'm talking about? Okay, Gina.
I find it fascinating. I can't remember what Zoom we were speaking, might have been 2 months ago. And it was an experience I had, and you're actually now unfolding this experience, which was we were speaking that I saw our sun signs as a template, but consciousness pouring into us, and we will grow and change beyond the templates of who we think we are. It's like consciousness needs a template to express itself, and then we still have the opportunity to go even beyond that
And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going beyond right now because that's where we are as a transition, as a collective right now. We're all, and Vedic astrology has been around. There are Vedic astrologers. I mean, you can go on and read, have Vedic astrologies talk, but I still do it a little bit different than they do. In fact, as I was doing my research for the Starseed origins, I found a book. There was somebody who, let's see, her name is Indigo Angel. I was reading her book and she had Starseed origins and the way her interpretation of it, but she had references in the back of her book. And one of the references was this woman here. It's called The Science of Light. And apparently I ordered this book because it was a reference in the back, but I found out that this Indigo Angel took a lot of information from this particular book, but I still couldn't understand it because I've often heard that, the 13th degree of Cancer has always been the planet Sirius, okay? And the 29th degree of Leo has been Regulus, or the first degree of Virgo has been Regulus, right in there. So, but that's Western astrology. So she gives these numbers totally different, and they're from the Vedic origin. So what I did was I happened to email this woman, and I said, "How did you come up with your numbers?" And she emailed me back within a couple of days. And she says, well, I've been studying this all my life. I've studied in ashrams over in India and all this kind of stuff. And so this is what I have been taught Vedically. And so then I asked her if she would do a chart reading for me, and she did. And then I asked her if she would give me some lessons. And so, she says, I don't give lessons. And she lives over in Ireland someplace. And finally, she says, okay, I'll give you lessons. I'll give you 5 lessons. So I just finished my 5 lessons, and it was my introduction to Vedic astrology. But now I have to delve into it, and I have to figure out how to do this. So as I'm doing this, I'm doing a little research. And as we know, the world is changing around us. And the 3 major planets that affect the collective are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They're not personal planets. They form the collective. So what Uranus does to the collective, it changes signs every 7 years. So anyway, every 7 years, it has a particular principle that it's going to shake up. Now, in Western astrology right now, Uranus is in Taurus. So you can say that Uranus is shaking up our value system. It's shaking up what we thought was valuable to us, what our resources are, and it's giving us a whole new set of resources. It also has to do with maybe shaking up earthly structures, like volcanoes going off or all that kind of stuff. It has to do with the land. But I'm finding out that Vedically, Uranus is still Aries, and Aries has to do with breaking up our ecosystem and giving us gifts to create our soul lineage. So if you are a starseed, or if you're in this origin right now and you want to wake up to where we are going in the plan of the accelerated human being, some people call it ascension, some people call it inscension, but basically there are way showers and people that are waking up to a new reality. We're waking up to our soul essence in a whole new way. And so Vedically, Uranus is still in Aries. And I really believe that we as way showers are doing that. We're waking up to a new level. So Neptune is our divinity. It has to do with our ideology. It has to do with meditation. It has to do with retreats or going deep within ourselves. It has to do with hospitals, recovery, going in. It has to do with all that stuff. But Vedically, now the reason I'm bringing this up is, and I feel like I'm kind of all over the place because I think I'm in this transition state, but Vedically, Neptune just went into Pisces 3 days ago. Actually, 2 days ago, on February 18th. It just went into Pisces. Now I'm going to talk a little bit. So this is what we're going to be really talking about tonight. Now, Pluto collectively has to do with transformation. So what it does is it goes to a particular sign, and most recently it's been going westernly through Capricorn. So it feels like it's breaking up all kinds of governments in all ways. But it officially went, and Christina referred to this in her lunchtime chats, it went into Capricorn in 2008 in Western astrology. And that was a housing crisis. But Vedically, it went into Capricorn in February of 2020. And now, okay, there could be the housing crisis. And I don't know what happened to the rest of the world during the housing crisis, but I know for sure Pluto going into Capricorn in February of 2020, it surely did make a big dent in our global government structures. I mean, it totally changed everybody's structures of what you're going to follow, if you're going to follow the rules or if you're going to go off and do your own rules. It gave us a whole new insight. And Pluto is about death and rebirth. It's about transformation. It's about transformation of what we've always believed to be true in how to follow the rules. But right now, I think it's a free-for-all of how we're going to follow the rules. Are we going to follow somebody else's rules? Or are we going to follow our rules? So collectively, Pluto's doing that. It started.
Is it okay to comment? Is that okay?
Yes. Oh, sure. Please comment.
I wasn't sure if it was appropriate. So
oh, no,
I just wanted
it's appropriate.
to say, when I was studying astrology as a teenager, which was midway through my own astrology things, I started as a child. I came to this sidereal. The sidereal chart is the Vedic chart versus the tropical, which is the Western Hellenistic chart, which is the Chaldean from the Middle East. They're actually rooted in the Chaldean chart, by the way, way before the Roman. My interpretation has always been, it got me existentially as well. They just exist in multiple dimensions. And the difference would be the sidereal chart follows the moon, the lunar cycles. So they're following the exact coordinates of these constellations and entities, whereas the tropical chart is following the Roman calendar.
Yes.
Which is more of a template. It's like a mental template in the new sphere. So both have an influence, but they're following different source gestalts. That's just the way I was able to move forward using they're not that different actually in reality if you go far back enough, but it's interesting that you bring this up. I just have always called it the sidereal chart without the cultural stuff. It's really just a sidereal chart, right?
Yes, the sidereal, Vedic sidereal. And I'm finding out though, it seems to be more right on with where we're going.
It's more esoteric.
Yes, esoteric. Okay. Most people in this group are esoteric, so that's why. And I think you said it in a really good way because I'm searching for words because it's a new language for me. So I really appreciate.
Well, one astrologer who really helped me as a mentor, just reading his stuff, Robert. What's his name? Sorry, I have this book right here. Robert Hand writes a lot about postmodern versus ancient astrology, and he's a historian, and he's very good at looking at the history of astrology and tracking where a lot of cultural changes and new movements began, because there are a lot of conflicting schools of thought.
Yes. Robert, in fact, I used to go, I met Robert Hand, I think that he recently did pass to the other side, but.
Oh, are you serious? That's really disappointing. I didn't know.
No, he was back in the 70s. I mean, he wrote all the books that I read, when I was doing charts. I mean, Robert Hand was absolutely fabulous. He was very eccentric and definitely Aquarian. There's no doubt in my mind. But so that said, the transpersonal planets affect generations. So I thought we would go into Neptune today because Neptune just went into Pisces in the sidereal zodiac, in the constellation of Pisces. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that. So,
Wait, Ellen?
Yes.
Didn't Neptune go into a Pisces a year ago or so? I mean, according to the Western.
Yes, in Western astrology, it went in 2011, 2012.
Yeah, okay.
Now, when we talk about this, 2011, 2012, everybody's ready for the end of the world. It was the Mayan calendar. So you can see both. You can see both parts working.
Right, because there was a cross, not a T square, but a whole cosmic cross or whatever they call it, with the major planets in 2011, 2012.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Right. Yeah,
it was a big time. There was no doubt, because people were in complete anticipation about the end of the Mayan calendar. And, and there are different interpretations. Some people say nothing happened. Some people said, oh my God, everything happened. I guess it depends on what dimension you're in, so but it definitely was a change after that, as far as I was concerned. Definitely. But now Neptune going into Pisces just recently, with all this happening with Pluto just sidereally going into Capricorn, Neptune going into Pisces. Pisces has to do with endings, actually. It's the end of the zodiac. Okay.
And Neptune is the ruler of Pisces.
Yes, it's the ruler of Pisces. It has to do with going within. It has to do with isolation. It has to do with, to me, at this point where we are, I mean, we're aware of the structures around us and the structures changing, but all of us here, especially in this group, what Neptune and Pisces means to me is we're finding the compass of our heart. We're finding our divinity. It's different than religion. It rules spirituality. And spirituality is a term that's overused, but it's the deepest essence with who we are, our soul consciousness. It's the non-physical of the physical. It's that intuition that you feel deep within your heart when you know something. And so for the next 14 years, we have the capacity. Now, you can say it started in 2011. That was a precursor to us. But right now, it's coming down to the wire where we really, really have to go deep within ourselves to know the truth. It's that inward ascension. It's that knowing that we have all the answers within us. And what happens around us, in this field around us, we have the ability to stand back and witness that and decide how we're going to relate to that. But it's from within. So now I think we are really hitting the tracks with this. And it should be it's going to be in Pisces until 2037. That sounds far away, but you know what? If we can, since we are way showers, we are going to embrace this. And as we embrace this, what we do is we radiate our stillness within, giving other people around us to experience that. It also has to do with delusion. Pisces also is delusion. It's illusion and delusion, but it's also visionary. So it's waking up to our delusions, what we thought was real. It's the truth that we thought was real, but it's we're waking up to it in different ways. So what could be your truth today could be changed tomorrow. Like my truth is changing right now, right before you. So I'm in transition. So you're seeing me in that. So I'm really not articulate in the way I'm saying things. So, because, right now I'm in transition. I have been in Western astrology for over 50 years. So this is all new to me. Dane Rudier is a great astrologer. He's actually very, very good. So let me see. So the last time that Neptune was in Pisces, Vedically, was the end of the 19th century. And during that time period, a lot of the great spiritualists came in. So what you do is you look at a previous cycle to give you intuition, or to kind of give you insight to what is going to be happening in this cycle. And it's always a spiral up. So some of the teachers that came in during that time cycle were Helena Blavatsky. Blavatsky came in. Annie Besant, the Theosophical Society came in. Krishnamurti came in. Gandhi came in. They were born during this time period. So the children that are going to it's imbuing our body with this essence right now, but the children that are actually coming in and being born with Neptune and Pisces are going to be, they're going to really bring this to a deep foundation of what the next 161 years are going to be. But actually, they're going to be surrounded by us who are going to be the kind of like waking up to it. We're going to be waking up to that deep part of ourselves by going into ourselves. We're getting in touch with other dimensions, like our starseed origins. It's kind of like we know that we have a physical DNA from our mother and our father, but we also have origins from other dimensions. We have origins from other star systems. That's going in within ourselves and discovering what that is. And you can read about it, but that's other people's interpretation. The only way that you can get into those origins is really going deep within yourself and seeing what it has to say to you. That is your truest information coming within, coming from within.
Yeah, Ray, too, at that same time, that's when Christian Science came into being, and New Thought, what they call New Thought, which is now a variety of different religions that are all pretty much philosophically aligned with metaphysical aspects, all of that stuff. This includes unity churches that are worldwide now. So yeah, all of that movement happened at that same time too.
So that's a flavor.
And Dr. Montessori, by the way, too. Yeah.
Really? Oh my God.
I think what you're trying to say, if I'm understanding you correctly here, is astrology is sort of coming back into the mainstream consciousness somehow. And I have to be honest with you, I have mixed feelings about that because as someone who is a member of many occult groups, I'm always disappointed and let down by people's seeming disinterest in doing research about the history of the things they're interested in, because there's a superficial interest and then there's doing something justice, like revering it, really respecting it as a art or a science. And I think it actually runs the risk of it going into pop psychology again or something. I mean, it's already disseminated into culture, really. It's everywhere you look. But if it could be more European, because, you know, there are schools in Europe where you can study astrology professionally. If that were to ever make a comeback in the Americas, that would be the day. I'd like to see that.
Thinking about that, well, I'm thinking that the new form of astrology has to be imbued with intuition. It has to be involved in, you know, like with it has to have an esoteric bent to it. It's not mundane and superficial. And I'm not sure if that's what you're saying. Yes. Well,
I hope so. That's what I would also be rooting for.
Well, that's what I'm trying to like impart here, that, you know, astrology, you know, a lot of people want to tell the future and this is how it is. But the thing is, you can't do that because it depends on, for instance, and I know I brought this up before, they did a project in California at a holistic hospital. And I know I brought this up many times through us, but they took all the charts of the patients and they took all the charts of the doctors. And believe it or not, they had very similar aspects, except the patients were exhibiting a particular illness and the doctors were healing the illness. So, you know, I mean, it just depends on how you're going to utilize the information that you have. I mean, you could have two children born the same day at the same time in the same hospital. They're called astro twins. And they can have parallel lives, but they can be totally different depending on what their heritage is and how the parents interact with them or how the people around them are interacting. Just to answer your question, yes, there's many forms of reading the stars, or many forms. In fact, my husband just had his first astrological reading this last weekend, and not by me. He actually... a friend of mine, he did a barter with her or something, and he did something for her and she did a reading, and he ended up buying me this book on astrology, and in it has the various forms of astrological information, whether it's Chinese or Native American or Eastern Indian, or so there's many forms of all these civilizations connecting with the stars, our starseed origin, the constellations. It's all that way. But I guess my study right now is that I'm studying the planets and their destination around our sun. Okay, and how they are aligning with the different constellations. And right now, actually, Neptune, which is the planet of divinity and truth and also delusion, but all of that is moving into the sign of Pisces. And how do we want to accelerate that in our lives? We have this opportunity for this energy to imbue our bodies with something that we are going to experience in this lifetime. There will be children that will be the teachers of this, but we as a collective right now, for the next 14 years, are going to be going through this. And how are we going to relate to that? How are we going to wake up to ourselves? How are we going to wake up to what is no longer the truth within us? I mean, it's really important. So I guess that's why I'm bringing it forward. It's going inside of ourselves and finding our truest nature. And, you know, that's what we're going through for right now. We as a collective and everyone on the planet is going to experience this. Whether we want to or not, we are going to experience this because we happen to be living on planet Earth, going around our sun, and Neptune is in the constellation of Pisces. You know, we have Saturn in the constellation of Aquarius. So we are going to get the information. And plus, our sun right now is going through a gigantic growth period with all these solar flares and everything like that. So it's going through its own encodements. And it's as it goes through its own encodements, it's encoding Mercury with a different way of communicating. It's encoding Venus with a different value system and a sense of appreciation and what we really want. And we living on Earth are experiencing that. And it's imbuing it, as the sun, because the Mars is in our solar system, how do we want to initiate all that we're learning? And Jupiter, how do we want to bring our truth forward? And Saturn, how do we want to define that? And as the sun goes through that, we're going to have inklings of how we're going to do that within our biosuit. Do you have a question, Gina?
No, I just had a picture that I'm just trying to pull it together in answer to Edna's question and what you're speaking of. I'm just trying to get it out while I've got it in my head. So with all the elements and the astrological aspects, perhaps and this is just from my lens, if we perceive it as how we have each as our own note. So every aspect in the Vedic and the Western and the elements are actually a note within our own song of self, how we're actually creating ourselves and we're flowing. And as the sun ramps up its, vibration and frequency and everything around us, then it's an opportunity for us to all elevate our own soul song on how each one of our individual components of our notes relates to that. And then that goes up an octave. So then if we're going up an octave, let's say frequency wise, then we're actually vibrating faster. So there's a different resonance. Now, each of our soul song is relating to all those different parts as an individual energetic frequency. But as it's put all together in our own soul song, then we actually, I can see it. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I'm hoping it's landing with you that.
Yes. Well, I've always heard the music of the spheres, and harmonics. I mean, everything is sound anyway. So yes, and it's how we're hearing that sound, how we're hearing that tone, how are we intoning that? And through, in fact, actually, Neptune, when it was in Pisces last time, the age of impressionism came. It also dissolves everything. It flows. So impressionism came in, and the music, it had to do music of the spheres. So definitely Neptune and Pisces is music of the spheres. It's all that.
Yes, I'm going very goosebumpy as you're speaking about that. And there's something to do with those spheres too, but I'm not sure yet. If I get a picture, I'll let you know.
I think that Earth is the place where we're embodying, since we live on Earth, these perspectives are all around us. And what we're doing is we're embodying what these particular other planetary spheres are telling us and how we're perceiving them. And we're all perceiving it as in a different way, as Gina said, and in the tone that we hear.
And I wonder how the other planets, though, perceive Earth, though, how we affect Earth and how the other planets are perceiving us.
Well, that would be something. That would be something you can meditate on.
Okay, because if they're affecting us, we're affecting them too.
Oh, of course. There is nothing in this whole, oh my God, universe that does not affect anything else. I think that there was a movie called The Butterfly Effect, I mean, everything affects everything else. I mean, there's just nothing that does not, because we're all interconnected. Even the farthest, most distant star. So, right now, all of us are going to be going through a deep, deep, deep metamorphosis, because we're going to end everything. We're going to dissolve over the next 14 years, and we're just at the beginning. And maybe that's why I'm bringing this up now, because in our everyday lives and over the next 14 years, and whether you remember or not, It's going to be running in the background. It's going to be continually, it's kind of like, like the ocean that hits the rocks. They hit the rocks, and over years and years and years, some become nice and soft, some wear away. So all of us are going to be formed by this new informing nature of Neptune. And it's a higher level. We're going to have a whole new belief system. And the belief system that came in the late 1800s, Kriya Yoga came in and then. So we had the capacity to bring these in an idea of something that's invisible. Spiritualism came in. They used to have seances, and people used to come in. That's what it's all about. Having perception to communicate with other dimensions and the other side, but not getting caught up in delusions. During your time of birth, the planets in our particular solar system or heliosphere were in a particular position. And what they did is they imbued their energy on your physical body. You took your first breath in, and it's kind of like, that's your imprint. That's going to be your soul song. That's what you chose to be in this particular lifetime. But it goes on farther. It's just a lens. So that particular lens of Mercury and Venus and the Earth and Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune, Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, okay, they all had a particular energy form that just put an imprint on your body. But through that lens, you have constellations behind that. And then you have galaxies behind that. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. But for the first time, we have the potential to connect with that. I think at the time of the Dark Ages, I mean, they never gave a thought about this. But Neptune coming in the late 1800s started opening up our consciousness to different ideologies. Okay, I can't say it. Okay, and now we're opening up, and now, oh my gosh, we're going warp speed. 2012 happened, and now, as you can see, from 1900 to now, everything is speeding. We can be perceiving things at a whole different level. So right now we're waking up to our starseed origin, or how we relate to all these constellations. And because it's all brand new, and because we're waking up to it, people write about it, but that's their interpretation. What you're going to do is you're going to find this out within yourself. You're going to find out what your own story is. And with Neptune, you have the capacity to do that.
Ray Ellen, can I speak to that? Because on that, it's Gina. I'm feeling like, let's not make it too hard about where we have to go. Set the intention that you want to connect. It's that easy. And see that energy show up, because I'm recalling a time when you did a meditation on Saturn some time ago, and we're in the group, and because Saturn's energy was changing, and I just asked, I said, show me how I can better relate to you as a conscious being through my bandwidths in the new way that this is unfolding. And remember, we got all that information as a group. Edna was there with the middle C and this, the sound, the tone, and all of that. So I'm feeling like it's just that easy at times.
Well, no, and it's going to be even easier 14 years from now, because we have a lot of practice. So right now we're letting go of the physical, we're letting go of the mental, we're going into our heart, and that's where we're going to start our meditation. Okay. And I'm just going to read something before we start. This was written in the last, it's part of, people have any adversity to Theosophical Society, but I think that it's really interesting that Krishnamurti, who was born in the last Neptune cycle, he became a great teacher of esoteric wisdom. And at 14 years old, he wrote this book, At the Feet of the Master. But there is a little phrase at the beginning of it that I just absolutely love. And I thought that this is the old cycle, and now we're going to take this into the new cycle. And this is changing. So this is the end of the old and the beginning of the new. And then we're going to go into our meditation.